But in any case, Gobineau, he of course ended up being the writer of the great book Inequality of the Human Races, which I mentioned before. But if you read the first part, even if, let's say, you disagree all of his conclusions, but his form of argument, his historical and literary knowledge is such a pleasure. The way he builds his argument, it's a kind of comparative, a kind of Herodotus or Montaigne-like thought on customs, on peoples, on states, that it's unequaled by anything in 20th century or now. It is vivid writing with verve. And its main argument is that all civilization, all true and high civilization, springs from the blood of a people, from the race, and that neither political instability, nor political regimes, nor luxuries and immorality, nor changes in religion will ever explain the end of a civilization, but only the end of its relevant bloodlines. He's trying to explain this, what makes great societies and civilizations end. And he believes it's only its bloodlines that make civilization end, whether through extinction or by mixing. And in this process, he actually praises a lot of non-European peoples. For example, the Malays he has high regards for. And he even has some good words for the Jews, although in other sense he's a kind of Nietzschean, or as Oscar Levy calls it, he's a kind of gentleman's anti-Semitism. But he says at times quite good things about the Jews and their productivity, and he contrasts the verdant productivity of ancient Israel with its present-day depraved condition. He has wonderful reflections on the differences between Haiti and the Dominican Republic too. Very funny. So actually, let me read you that, and forgive if I've read it or posted this before, but this is so good. It's because the difference between Haiti and Dominican Republic, that share the same land but differ in race, it's a kind of natural experiment of sorts, and it's really unanswerable by critics on the case of for how race and blood really is what determines the fate of nations. So I'm reading Gobineau now. It's a rather long passage, but very enjoyable. At San Domingo, this Dominican Republic today. So at San Domingo, the independence is complete. There are no missionaries to exert a veiled and absolute power, no foreign ministry to carry out European ideas. Everything is left to the inspiration of the people itself. Its Spanish part, he's saying what corresponds today to Dominican Republic, but its Spanish part consists of mulattoes, of whom I need say nothing. They seem to imitate, well or badly, all that is most easily grasped in our civilization. They tend, like all hybrids, to identify themselves with the more creditable of the races to which they belong. Not anymore today, unfortunately. Maybe someone should read this passage to Obama, who knows? So anyway, I continue with Gobineau now. Thus, they are capable, to a certain extent, of reproducing our customs. It is not among them that we must study the question in its essence. Let us cross the mountains that separate the Republic of San Domingo, the Dominican Republic, from the state of Haiti. We find a society of which the institutions are not only parallel to our own, but are derived from the latest pronouncements of our political wisdom. All that the most enlightened liberalism has proclaimed for the last 60 years in the deliberative assemblies of Europe, all that has been written by the most enthusiastic champions of men's dignity and independence, all the declarations of rights and principles, these have all found their echo on the banks of the Artibonite. He's talking about Haiti. Its constitution, built according to the latest European ideas, right? So nothing African has remained in the statute law. All memories of the land of Ham, of Africa, have been officially expunged from men's minds. The state language has never shown a trace of African influence. The institutions, as I say before, are completely European. Let us consider how they harmonize with the manners of the people. We are in a different world at once. The manners are as depraved, brutal, and savage as in the Home or among the Felatahas. There is the same barbaric love of finery coupled with the same indifference to form. Beauty consists in color, and so long as a garment is of flaming red and edged with tinsel, the owner does not trouble about its being largely in holes. The question of cleanliness never enters anyone's head. If you wish to approach a high official in this country, you find yourselves being introduced to a gigantic Negro lying on his back on a wooden bench. His head is enveloped in a torn and dirty handkerchief, surmounted by a cocked hat, all over gold lace. An immense sword hangs from his shapeless body. His embroidered coat lacks the final perfection of a waistcoat. On General's feet are cased in carpet slippers. Do you wish to question him, to penetrate his mind, and to learn the nature of the ideas he is revolving there? You will find him as uncultured as a savage, and his bestial self-satisfaction is only equaled by his profound and incurable laziness. If he deigns to open his mouth, he will roll you out all the commonplaces which the newspapers have been inflicting on us for the last half-century. The barbarian knows them all by heart. He has other interests, of course, and very different interests, but no other ideas. He speaks like Baron Holbach, argues like Monsieur de Grimm, and has ultimately no serious... he's talking about these liberals, right? And has ultimately no serious preoccupation except chewing tobacco, drinking alcohol, disemboweling his enemies, and conciliating his sorcerers. The rest of the time he sleeps. Isn't that wonderful? This is one of the funniest passages in Gobineau. He shows how really state institutions, constitutions have absolutely no effect on the character of peoples, on the way they actually live. Let me continue. The state, I'm continuing to read from Gobineau now because this passage is so wonderful. The state is divided among two factions. These are separated from each other by a certain incompatibility, not of political theory, but of skin. The mulattoes are on one side, the Negroes on the other. Please send this to the talented 10th, to Obama, to Kamala, and these others. Please tell them what will happen to them in a Negroid America. Anyway, I continue with Gobineau. So he's talking about how in Haiti the mulatto and the Negro are divided. The former have certainly more, he's talking about mulatto now, the former have certainly more intelligence and are more open to ideas. As I have already remarked in the case of San Domingo, Dominican Republic, the European blood has modified the African character. If these men were set in the midst of a large white population and so had good models constantly before their eyes, they might become quite useful citizens. Unfortunately, the Negroes are for the time being superior in strength and numbers. Although the racial memory of Africa has its origin in many cases as far back as their grandfathers, they are still completely under the sway of African ideals. Their greatest pleasure is idleness. Their most cogent argument is murder. The most intense hatred has always existed between the two parties in the island. The history of Haiti, of democratic Haiti, is merely a long series of massacres. Massacres of mulattoes by Negroes or of Negroes by mulattoes, according as the one or the other held the reins of power. The Constitution, however enlightened it may pretend to be, has no influence whatsoever. It sleeps harmlessly upon the paper on which it is written. The power that reigns unchecked is the true spirit of these peoples. According to the natural law already mentioned, the black race, belonging as it does to a branch of the human family that is incapable of civilization, cherishes the deepest feelings of repulsion toward all the others. Thus we see the Negroes of Haiti violently driving out the whites, forbidding them to enter their territory. They would like to exclude even the mulattoes, and they aim at their extermination. Hatred of the foreigner is the mainspring of local politics. Owing further to the innate laziness of the race, agriculture is abolished, industry is not even mentioned, commerce becomes less every day. The hideous increase of misery prevents the growth of population, which is actually being diminished by the continual wars, revolts, and military executions. The inevitable result is not far off. A country of which the fertility and natural resources used to enrich generation after generation of planters will become a desert. And the wild goat will roam alone over the fruitful plains, the magnificent valleys, the sublime mountains of the Queen of the Antilles. He's talking about the island of Haiti and Dominican Republic. You know, it's very good prediction because you look at the map now and you see the division between Haiti and Dominica, Dominican Republic, very simply, you have forests and lush green in Dominican Republic, and in Haiti you have a desert like he predicted, nothing, a complete wasteland.